we're going to take a look into a little bit more of the creative elements that bring together an Inspire online product as well as InspireChurch as a whole. And we're going to go more on the marketing side today and look at an element that you, of course, might be familiar with, but maybe you've also had an interest in diving deeper into that field. And we're talking today about web development and coding, what that looks like to build something like a church website, and of course the theory that goes behind it. We're going to take this in steps. So along with this particular video, we're going to look at different items that come alongside designing a website, what it looks like to build something that's amicable for everyone to take part in. And we're going to do a couple more videos about this, but I do want to jump in today into just the basics, really, the understanding of coding. And I'm not going to walk you through a whole coding course. That's going to take a much longer time and more coursework as well. But if you've ever been interested in what it means to build a website, or maybe you're interested in coding and you've wanted to get your feet wet or dive into it, and maybe it seems intimidating, it seems like it's a lot to understand, and so you might even think it's a whole new language, and it kind of is, but it's a lot easier when you think about it in the creative element and how you're building things. So I want to jump in with you here today and show you a bit more what this looks like. I, of course, along with being with Inspire Online, get the honor and privilege to handle our church website along with other websites in tandem with InspireChurch. And a lot of it is, of course, custom made to what we are offering, but also it's really easy when it comes down to the dynamic of how our websites work with each other. It helps to build a stronger brand for our church and helps us to relay our message just a little bit better. So let's take a look here on some of the basics of coding. And I do want to organize it in a way that you can kind of understand. Now, before we do that and we jump into our editor, I want to explain what coding really does. It's really the framework that builds all of the websites that you might see, all of the web work that you might see on the internet. Anything that has a digital footprint is some way, somehow coded to that infrastructure. You might be thinking, well, let's just throw a blue background, some really nice text in front of it, and let's just copy and paste this photo on top of it. And there it is, we're good to go. We've got a website. It is a little bit more than that. You have to build it from the ground up. You have to assign it certain things and give it certain commands. And computers, of course, are not human beings, so they speak to each other a different way. So you do have to speak their language. And so I'm going to walk you through something here in Encode Pen. It's one of my favorite editors to test things out and walk you through what each of these items can look like when you start to build them together. It's going to be really simple. Don't worry, you don't have to be a computer genius or someone who's savvy with computer and tech and understand fully what's going on, but I do want to share it with you so that you can kind of look at websites a bit differently and understand that there is so much more going on behind what you see when you make that click. Okay, so I'm going to start in Encode Pen here. I'm in basically an editor suite, and it's giving me 3 sections in which I can build a basic website or basic web display. And I'll walk you through what each of them means briefly. Okay, so this first window here is called HTML. This is a term you might be familiar with, and it's essentially what you write in is what you see. It's the front end side of your display, and whatever command I put in here is what's going to be displayed on the screen. Now, below me here in this white section is what's going to pop up whenever I give it a command. So HTML, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. That's really what it is. It's a language that we tell the computer to do, and we have to do it a certain way. And so I'm going to give it something here. We're going to make a really simple display here of just a few words on a nice screen. So I'm going to say, hey, let's create a header. And I'm going to make it a header 1, which is basically the largest and most prominent header that you can make. And I'm going to tell it to say, Aloha, Inspire Online, exclamation. And as you can see, it's already starting to populate right there in the bottom. That's what it's looking like with the default font and the default settings. And I'm going to go ahead and close this header, all right? So I'm going to just end that one and close it off. That command tells me that I'm done writing a header. So it knows that anything after that I do here with regards to a paragraph, I'm just going to say this is a paragraph. And so it's going to assign functions and settings according to that paragraph, all right? So I'm going to erase that paragraph. But as you can see, I made a header. Step one, we're complete. All right, good. We've got some text on there on the board. The next situation is our CSS, and this is the styling, and CSS stands for Cascading Styling Sheets, or Cascading Style Sheets. A lot of people have different acronym or definitions for this particular acronym, but this is what we're going to do to dress it up a bit. We're going to essentially give it a little bit more personality, assign some fonts, some colors, some things to make it look great. And so once again, our HTML we told it what to display, and the CSS is going to help us tell it how to display it. So I am now in the body of this particular text. So I'm going to assign everything here to the body of the website. And what does that mean? It means that there's a head, body, and footer. You might have been familiar with that in papers on Microsoft Word or things like that, that there's a header at the very top. That's something that's going to stay constant throughout the whole thing. A body is the main body of that particular document, and the footer is always at the bottom. And the same kind of rings true for websites. And so I'm going to assign this to the body because I know that what I've written here is not assigned to a header. I just made a header, but I'm going to put this in the body of the website. So I'm going to put body in there and put some nice little curly brackets to compose everything in here together. And let's give this a font. Okay, so I'm going to go font family. And this is going to be, let's just do the system UI, which is basically the font that the system has already designated. I think a really nice font that comes into play here. And as you can see, it's already loading it in. So it's changed the font already. I want to add a background, right? So I'm going to say the background, and I want to give it a certain color. And so I want to go over here to my internet color picker. You can find these throughout the World Wide Web, find different ways to display colors. And I'm looking for a nice, fun, warm color like this orange here. And I'm going to grab its hex code. Now, in the internet, on the website, colors are assigned certain codes, whether they're displayed in their red, green, blue format, or what we like to call hex codes, in which this particular code is applicable to this particular color. So this hex code right here is going to be the hex code that I want to grab. So I'm going to just copy that over. And I know that when I put this color in here, it's going to color the background, the color that I want it to. So already we're seeing progress, and we're seeing it grow in the way that we want it to do so. Now, as you can see, it's a little Halloweenish, right? It's a little orange background, black text. I kind of want it to be a bit more welcoming. So I want to make the text white. So I'm going to say color. And this one, I can actually just write white. White's a primary color. It doesn't need a certain hex code. It's not complicated. And I can just write it out here. So there we go. It's turned the color white. And it's already all the way to the left. And I do want to make it in the middle because I want it to be a very nice, welcoming sign. So I'm going to text align it over to the center. And there it is. It's right there in the center. And I think we're good. It looks great and it looks really cool. Nice welcoming header for the church to see. And we've given it some personality with the nice colors and the background. Okay. All right, and so the last section here is the JavaScript window. And this is where I can attach conditions to what we've already done. Now, to recap, we've already told it what to say, which is a header that says Aloha Inspire Online in our HTML section. In our CSS, we gave it some personality, we gave some color, and some conditional elements that can help it look better and just stand out from the rest of the text. And then in the JS section, what we're going to do here is apply conditions to it to tell our website and our web browser to display or to do certain things with these functions when these things happen. Okay, so this is where we put kind of our rules section in to tell the website or train it how to display our particular elements. And so I'm going to do something in which we tell them, or tell the website, that anything that's a header, which we've already made, please adjust the size by this. So I'm going to put some JavaScript in here, and this does require a little bit more detail on the coding section. You do have to understand the element bases and what you're actually telling it to do, but once you kind of walk through these and learn these, you'll be able to see that it's actually just talking to the computer and telling it what to do at the end of the day. Okay, so I'm gonna write document, and I'm gonna say get elements, and now I'm gonna say to get elements by tag name, okay, because I want this to essentially do this. Anything that has this particular tag name, I want you to apply this particular rule. And so the tag name I'm going to tell it to do is header 1, because we made one, right? We just made one just now. And I'm going to just do a hard shift over with this 0 and say anything that is header 1, please style it by the font size and apply essentially a 6 times the view width application. So I'm essentially saying, you can see it's already done it right there. It read the command and it did exactly that. So I'm telling it anything that's tag named H1, header 1, please style it font size 6 times the viewer width. Now what is viewer width? Essentially whatever you are looking at this website on is your viewer width. So if I'm looking at this on a computer screen like I am right now, it's going to take the width of that computer and the text that's in there, and it's going to multiply that text 6 times in size. If I'm on a mobile device, it's going to apply the same thing 6 times in size. So it's not telling it to do a certain font number, but it's saying, hey, whatever is displayed right now on whatever browser this person is seeing, anything that's header 1, multiply it by 6. I know that's a lot, but that's essentially what you're doing. And voila, we have our nice little header that's expanded 6 times the view width, and that's essentially a basic text output for coding. As you can see, a few different things that we've had to do to make it come out this way. And there are other things to make it conditional, but it's really a great way to understand what coding and building a website is all about. It's a lot of different commands here and there, back and forth. So there you have it. That's essentially what we built. It's a nice little way to welcome online through a coding snippet in which we made a fun little text with a great background. And you can imagine as we build the website even more, there are more commands, more conditions, and more elements that we're putting into this website. So it might be a little daunting for you to understand, but just know that as you're clicking each website, a lot of this is going on. It's happening in the background. And if you're ever interested in learning coding, I want to encourage you to do so. Dive into any type of coding structured bootcamp. Maybe there is a computer science literate that you want to get into. I would encourage you to do so, especially getting into the tech field. We can help build ministries and build the church through the digital spectrum, one code snippet at a time. That's it for today's Inspire 101/Backstage. I hope you had fun. I know this might have been a lot to really put through, but I hope it was cool to see how you can build websites by just a little bit of knowledge to fundamentally build things bit by bit. It's all about building, shaping, so that we can make things so much more cooler than what they already are. Amen? So I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you on the next episode as well. Take care. Aloha.